You've been filling every silence with noise. Music when you walk, podcasts when you cook, videos when you eat, scrolling when you wait, voices, notifications, distractions, anything to keep the silence away. And you tell yourself it's fine, that you're just staying informed, entertained, connected. But here's what you won't admit. You're terrified of what happens when the noise stops. Because in that silence, something's waiting. Something you've been running from for so long that you've forgotten you're even running. And the exhausting part, the thing that's draining you, making you feel hollow, even when you're surrounded by content and stimulation, it's not the silence you're avoiding, it's what the silence would finally let you hear. But what if I told you that the voice waiting in that silence isn't your enemy? What if that relentless internal noise you're drowning out with distractions is actually the only thing that can save you? What if the reason you feel so empty, so disconnected, so fundamentally wrong, despite doing everything right, is precisely because you've been refusing to listen to the one voice that knows what's destroying you? You see, we've built an entire civilization around the avoidance of silence. We've convinced ourselves that productivity means constant input, that growth means perpetual stimulation, that being alive means being occupied. You wake up and immediately reach for your phone. You drive with music, you work with background noise, you fall asleep to videos, every moment accounted for, every silence filled, every gap plugged with something, anything, to keep you from being alone with yourself. And you know what's extraordinary about this? You don't even notice you're doing it anymore. The avoidance has become so automatic, so deeply woven into your daily routine, that you've forgotten there was ever an alternative. Silence has become the enemy, the thing to be conquered, eliminated, made extinct from your experience. Because silence is where the uncomfortable questions live, silence is where you'd have to face what your life has become, silence is where the truth waits, patient and unwavering. Heidegger understood this. He spoke of das Gerede, the idle talk, the constant chatter that drowns out authentic existence. He saw how we lose ourselves in what they say, what everyone thinks, what the world demands of our attention. We become so consumed by the external noise that we never hear our own voice, our own being calling out to us from beneath the layers of distraction. And here's what he knew that you're beginning to suspect. That voice isn't speaking to you about trivial matters. It's speaking about your life, your choices, your trajectory. It's speaking about the fact that you're dying, slowly, in a prison of your own construction. Think of it this way. Imagine you're in a house that's been filling with water, slowly, imperceptibly, for years. At first, it was just a few inches. You noticed it, sure, but you convinced yourself it was manageable. You built platforms to stand on, raised your furniture, learned to wade through it. And to cope with the constant sound of water lapping at your life, you turned on the radio, then the television. Then you got headphones and filled your ears with podcasts, music, anything to drown out the sound of the water rising. The water kept rising. Now it's up to your waist, then your chest. But you've gotten so good at ignoring it, so skilled at filling every moment with noise, that you barely notice anymore. You're standing on your tiptoes, headphones firmly in place, desperately maintaining the illusion that everything is fine. And the most tragic part? The solution was always obvious. Turn off the noise. Listen to the water. Find where it's coming from. Fix the leak. But you can't do that, because if you turn off the noise, you'll have to acknowledge how deep the water has gotten. You'll have to face how long you've been ignoring it. You'll have to confront the fact that your strategy for survival has been slowly drowning you. This is what's happening when you fill every silence with distraction. You're not staying informed or entertained. You're not being productive or connected. You're standing in rising water with headphones on, pretending you can't hear your life screaming at you that something is fundamentally wrong. If this is hitting different for you, consider staying. We explore these depths every single week. You know where the subscribe button is? And here's what you need to understand. The voice in the silence isn't cruel. It's not there to berate you or shame you or make you feel worse about the choices you've made. That voice is trying to save you. It's the part of you that still knows what you need, what you've lost, what you're becoming. It's the authentic self that Heidegger described, the one that exists beneath the social masks and the daily performances and the constant consumption. And it has something urgent to tell you, but you won't let it speak. Most people, when they finally sense this, when they get that uncomfortable feeling that something's wrong beneath all the stimulation, they do the most predictable thing imaginable. They turn up the volume. More podcasts, more content, more Netflix, more scrolling, more noise. They think the emptiness they feel means they haven't consumed enough, haven't stayed busy enough, haven't filled their minds sufficiently. So they add more inputs, more distractions, more strategies to avoid the silence. And it works. For a while, you can successfully avoid silence for days, weeks, months, maybe even years. You can build a life where you're never alone with your thoughts, never forced to sit with discomfort, never required to hear that internal voice that keeps trying to tell you something. You can become a master of distraction, a virtuoso of avoidance, but here's what happens. The water keeps rising. The thing that's wrong in your life, the truth you're avoiding, doesn't go away just because you're not listening to it. It gets worse, and the voice in the silence gets more desperate, more urgent, more insistent. Until one day, maybe it's a random Tuesday afternoon, maybe it's 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. Maybe it's a moment when your phone dies and you're forced to just sit there. The noise stops. And in that gap, that terrible, beautiful gap, you hear it, that voice. And it doesn't say what you expected. It doesn't criticize you or judge you or tell you you're failing. It says something much more devastating. It tells you the truth about what your life has become. It shows you how much time you've lost. It reveals what you've been sacrificing every time you chose noise over silence, and the realization is crushing. Let me introduce you to what I call the architecture of avoidance. It's the elaborate system you've constructed to never have to face yourself. It starts simple. A podcast during your commute, music while you work, television while you eat, but it evolves. It becomes more sophisticated, more complete, until every single moment of your waking life is accounted for. You develop a Pavlovian response to silence, reaching for your phone within seconds of any gap in stimulation. You build routines specifically designed to ensure you're never alone with your thoughts. You become allergic to boredom, to stillness, to the simple experience of being present without input. And here's the cruel irony. The more successful you are at avoiding silence, the more desperately you need what silence offers, because in that silence is where you process, where you integrate, where you actually understand your experiences rather than just accumulating them. Silence is where you hear what your body has been trying to tell you about your stress, your exhaustion, your limits. Silence is where you recognize which relationships are nourishing you and which are draining you. Silence is where you realize that the career path you're on is leading somewhere you don't actually want to go. But you can't hear any of that if you never listen. Now, I must warn you about something. When I tell people they need to create space for silence, they often imagine something peaceful, something meditative, something that will feel good. They picture themselves sitting serenely, finally at peace, accessing some kind of calm wisdom. And then they try it. They sit in silence. And it's not peaceful at all. It's excruciating. Thoughts assault them, anxiety spikes. They feel physical discomfort, an overwhelming urge to do something, anything, to escape back into the noise. And they conclude that silence isn't for them, that they're somehow doing it wrong, that this whole thing must be overrated. But here's what they don't understand. That discomfort is the water you've been ignoring. That anxiety is your body finally getting your attention about all the stress you've been drowning out. Those overwhelming thoughts are everything you've been postponing, every conversation you've been avoiding, every truth you've been denying. The silence doesn't create these things. It just stops hiding them from you. Kierkegaard wrote about this in The Sickness Unto Death. He described despair not as a feeling, but as a state of being, a fundamental disconnection from one's authentic self. And he noted that most people live in despair without even knowing it because they're too distracted by the world's noise to notice. They mistake numbness for contentment, distraction for peace, avoidance for coping, and it's only in silence, in that terrible confrontation with oneself, that the despair becomes visible, which is precisely why we avoid silence. Not because there's nothing there, but because there's too much there, too much truth we're not ready to face. And if you're still here, you already know this isn't surface-level content. Maybe it's time to join the space where we go deeper every week. Let me tell you about Marcus, successful tech executive, six-figure salary, respected by his peers, living what everyone would call an enviable life. He'd mastered the architecture of avoidance better than anyone I'd ever met. AirPods always in, 3 monitors at work, television on at home, podcast during every workout. He'd eliminated silence so completely from his life that he couldn't remember the last time he'd experienced it. Then his company sent him on a required meditation retreat. 7 days, no phones, no computers, no devices. He thought he'd lose his mind. The first day was torture. His hands kept reaching for the phone that wasn't there. His mind raced with everything he was missing, every email piling up, every conversation happening without him. He barely slept. By day 3, something shifted. Not in a good way. He started really hearing a thought he'd been drowning out for 2 years. He hated his job. Not disliked it, not felt bored by it actively, viscerally hated it. Every morning he woke up with dread. Every meeting felt like a small death. Every success felt hollow. And he'd been so busy, so stimulated, so plugged in, that he'd never let himself fully acknowledge this truth. The noise had been protecting him from knowing how miserable he actually was. By day 5, he heard something else. His marriage was dying. Not in a dramatic way, but in the slow, quiet way marriages die when 2 people stop actually seeing each other. He realized he couldn't remember the last conversation he'd had with his wife that wasn't transactional. The last time he'd been fully present with her, not thinking about work or checking his phone or planning the next thing. The noise had been filling the space where intimacy used to be. By day 7, he understood. The voice in the silence wasn't his enemy. It was the only friend honest enough to tell him his life was wrong. And he'd been treating it like a threat, something to be drowned out, eliminated, silenced. The discomfort he felt in silence wasn't silence's fault, it was his life's fault. The silence was just showing him what was already true. He left that retreat and made changes. Not all at once, not perfectly, but fundamentally. He left the job within 6 months. He started having conversations with his wife that were painful and real and necessary. He built different routines, ones that included space, gaps, silence, and here's what he told me that struck me most. The silence didn't fix anything. It just stopped letting me pretend everything was fine. This is what silence does. It's not a solution. It's a diagnostic tool. It shows you what's actually happening beneath the noise, beneath the performance, beneath the constant stimulation. And yes, what it shows you might be uncomfortable. It might be devastating. It might require you to make changes you've been avoiding, to have conversations you've been postponing, to face truths you've been denying. But here's the alternative. Continue with the noise. Continue drowning out that voice. Continue standing in rising water with headphones on. Continue until the water reaches your nose, your eyes, until you're fully submerged and the noise finally stops. Not because you chose silence, but because you've run out of time. Think about a wound that's infected. You can cover it, bandage it, spray it with numbing agents, take painkillers to avoid feeling it. And for a while, you won't feel the pain. You can go about your life pretending the wound isn't there, but the infection spreads. Under the bandage, hidden from view, numbed by medication, the infection is consuming you. And the longer you avoid looking at it, the worse it gets. Until eventually the pain breaks through even the strongest numbing agents, and you're forced to confront what you've been ignoring. This is what the noise does to your life. It's a numbing agent, it covers the wound. It lets you pretend everything's fine while the infection spreads. And that voice in the silence, that's not the infection. That's your immune system, trying desperately to get your attention, to make you look at the wound, to force you to deal with it before it's too late. You're in the middle of this process now. You wouldn't be reading these words if you weren't. Something in you knows that the constant noise, the relentless distraction, the elaborate avoidance isn't working anymore. Maybe you're noticing that even with your ears full of podcasts, your mind is still racing. Maybe you're realizing that no amount of content can fill the emptiness you're feeling. Maybe you're starting to suspect that the thing you're running from is the thing you most need to face. And here's the extraordinary thing. You don't need to do anything dramatic. You don't need to quit social media or throw away your phone or move to a monastery. You just need to create small pockets of silence and resist the urge to fill them. 5 minutes in the morning before you reach for your phone, 10 minutes of walking without earbuds, 20 minutes sitting in your car after work before you go inside. Just small gaps in the noise where that voice can finally speak to you. But here's what you absolutely must understand. You can't negotiate with silence. You can't do it halfway. You can't sit there with your phone in your hand ready to grab it the moment discomfort arises. You can't treat silence as just another productivity technique, another thing to optimize or gamify or achieve. Silence requires surrender. It requires you to stop controlling, stop managing, stop defending yourself against your own thoughts. And when you do this, when you finally let the noise fall away, you won't hear what you expect. You won't hear criticism or judgment or condemnation. You'll hear something much more powerful. You'll hear truth. Truth about what you actually need, not what you think you should want. Truth about which parts of your life are nourishing you and which are consuming you. Truth about the person you're becoming versus the person you intended to be. Truth about what's destroying you. Because here's what Heidegger understood and what you're beginning to learn. The voice in the silence isn't external. It's not God or the universe or some mystical force. It's you. Your authentic self. The part of you that exists beneath the social conditioning, the career expectations, the constant performance. It's the you that knows, that has always known, what's wrong and what needs to change. And it's been trying to tell you, but you couldn't hear it over the noise. If you've been resonating with this, maybe it's time to join the space where we go deeper every week. The subscribe button is right there. Stop treating silence like emptiness. Stop filling every gap with distraction. Stop running from the voice that's trying to save you. Because here's what you need to know. That voice isn't going away. It will wait. It will persist. It will get louder and more insistent until you finally listen. You can postpone this confrontation, but you cannot avoid it forever. The only question is whether you'll listen now while you still have time to make changes, or whether you'll wait until the water is over your head and you have no choice. The practical steps are deceptively simple, which is why most people won't do them. First, stop using noise as a default. Don't automatically put in earbuds the moment you leave the house. Don't reflexively turn on the television when you get home. Don't immediately reach for your phone when you sit down. Create friction between you and the noise. Make it a conscious choice rather than an automatic response. Second, schedule silence. Not meditation, not mindfulness practice, just silence. Sit in a room with nothing. No book, no phone, no music, no podcast, nothing. Start with 5 minutes, if that's all you can handle. The goal isn't to achieve some peaceful state or have profound insights. The goal is simply to stop running, to let whatever needs to surface actually surface. Third, notice your resistance. Pay attention to how quickly discomfort arises. Watch yourself reaching for distractions. Observe the stories your mind tells about why you need to be doing something else right now. This resistance is data. It's showing you how desperately you've been avoiding something, how much energy you've been spending on the avoidance. Don't judge it, just notice it. Fourth, listen without fixing. When thoughts arise in silence, when emotions surface, when that internal voice finally speaks, don't immediately try to solve anything or change anything or make it go away. Just listen. Let it be there. Let it tell you what it needs to tell you. You've been drowning it out for so long. Give it space to finally speak. And here's the paradox. The more you do this, the less you'll need constant noise. Not because silence becomes comfortable, it often doesn't, but because you'll stop being afraid of what it reveals. You'll realize that the voice in the silence isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to show you what's already destroying you so you can stop it. What you're experiencing right now isn't a personal failing or a unique weakness. It's a universal human pattern in an age of infinite distraction. We've built a world that makes silence nearly impossible, that treats constant stimulation as normal, that pathologizes stillness as laziness or depression. We've created technologies specifically designed to eliminate every gap, to monetize every moment of attention, to ensure you never have to be alone with yourself. And we wonder why mental health is collapsing, why people feel so disconnected and hollow, why no amount of content or success or achievement seems to be enough. Schopenhauer wrote about the will, that blind, insatiable force that drives us toward endless wanting, endless striving, endless dissatisfaction. He saw how we're trapped in a cycle of desire and disappointment, always seeking the next thing that will finally make us complete. And he argued that the only escape from this suffering is to temporarily quiet the will, to create space where we're not constantly wanting, not constantly consuming, not constantly running toward the next stimulation. This is what silence offers. Not peace, not answers, not solutions, but a temporary cessation of the will's endless demands. A moment where you're not trying to get anywhere, or become anyone, or achieve anything. A gap in the consuming, where you can finally hear yourself beneath the want, beneath the striving, beneath the noise. And in that gap, you discover something shocking. You still exist. Even without the constant input, the perpetual stimulation, the relentless noise, there's still a you there, and that you has something to say. But most people never discover this because they never create the space for it. They live their entire lives in noise, from the first alarm in the morning to the last video before sleep, never once being truly alone with themselves. And then they wonder why they feel so lost, so disconnected, so fundamentally uncertain about who they are and what they want. How could they know? They've never listened. They've never created the conditions where that authentic voice could speak. This isn't about becoming a different person or achieving some enlightened state. It's about finally being honest with yourself about the person you already are and the life you're actually living. And that honesty requires silence. It requires you to stop performing, stop consuming, stop distracting yourself long enough to see clearly. Think about the last time you felt truly alive, truly present, truly yourself. I'm willing to bet it wasn't during your most stimulating experience or your most productive day. It was probably a quiet moment. Maybe watching the sunrise without your phone. Maybe a real conversation where both people were fully present. Maybe a moment of unexpected stillness where you suddenly saw your life clearly. These moments are rare, not because they're difficult to create, but because we actively avoid them. We've become so uncomfortable with silence, with stillness, with simply being, that we treat these moments as gaps to be filled, rather than gifts to be received. And here's what you discover when you finally stop filling the gaps. The silence was never empty. It was full of truth you needed to hear, full of wisdom you needed to access, full of clarity you needed to see. You just couldn't perceive it because you were too busy drowning it out with noise. The voice in the silence isn't telling you to meditate more or be more mindful or practice gratitude or any other self-help prescription. It's telling you something specific about your specific life. Maybe it's telling you that your relationship is dying and you need to either revive it or let it go. Maybe it's telling you that your career is consuming you and you need to set boundaries or make a change. Maybe it's telling you that you're drinking too much, sleeping too little, giving too much to people who don't reciprocate. Maybe it's telling you that you're depressed and need help. Maybe it's telling you that you're living according to someone else's values and need to find your own. Whatever it's telling you, it's specific, it's real, it's urgent, and it's been trying to tell you for a long time. The noise has just been too loud for you to hear it. This is why you feel that constant gnawing anxiety, even when everything seems fine on paper. This is why you feel exhausted despite sleeping, empty despite consuming, disconnected despite being constantly connected. Something in you knows you're not listening. Something in you knows there's a truth you're avoiding, a voice you're drowning out, a conversation you're postponing. And that knowing creates a constant background tension that no amount of distraction can fully eliminate. The water is still rising. The voice is still speaking. The wound is still infected. And the noise, no matter how loud you make it, cannot fix any of this. It can only postpone the reckoning. It can only delay the moment when you finally have to face what you've been avoiding. So here's what I'm asking you to do, and I'm asking you to actually do it, not just think about doing it. Tonight, before you sleep, sit in silence for 10 minutes. No phone, no book, no television, nothing. Just sit there and listen, really listen. Not for some cosmic revelation or profound insight, just listen to what's there. Listen to the thoughts that arise. Listen to the feelings that surface. Listen to the voice that's been trying to reach you through all the noise. It might be uncomfortable. It probably will be. You might feel anxious or restless or overwhelmed with the urge to grab your phone. That's fine. That's expected. That's the architecture of avoidance trying to protect itself. Just notice it and keep sitting. Keep listening. Because here's the truth. You already know but haven't admitted your current strategy isn't working. The constant noise, the perpetual distraction, the elaborate avoidance, it's not making you happier or more productive or more connected. It's making you hollow. It's making you numb. It's making you a stranger to yourself. And somewhere deep down, beneath all the noise, you know this is. The voice in the silence has been trying to tell you this, and it's time to listen. This isn't about self-improvement or optimization or becoming a better version of yourself. This is about survival. This is about stopping the thing that's destroying you before it finishes the job. This is about finally hearing the voice that knows what you need, what you've lost, what you're becoming. And that voice can only speak in silence. You're not broken for needing this. You're not weak for struggling with silence. You're human. You're living in a world specifically designed to make silence nearly impossible, to monetize every moment of your attention, to ensure you never have to face yourself. The fact that you're reading this, the fact that something in you recognized the truth in these words, means you're already different. You're already beginning to hear the voice beneath the noise. So turn off the noise, just for a moment, just for tonight. Sit in silence and let whatever needs to surface actually surface. Listen to what your life has been trying to tell you. Face what you've been avoiding. Hear the voice that's been trying to save you. Because here's the final truth, the one you've been sensing this entire time. The silence isn't trying to destroy you. The silence is trying to show you what's destroying you so you can stop it. The discomfort you feel in silence isn't the problem, it's the diagnosis. And diagnosis is the first step toward healing. The voice is speaking. It's been speaking for a long time. The only question is whether you'll finally stop the noise long enough to hear what it's saying. Your life, your real life. The one you're actually living beneath all the distraction and performance and noise depends on your answer. Make silence, listen deeply, hear what's destroying you, and then, finally, you can begin to stop it.